Welcome to B.A.M.F Fabricator. I'm Tubal Kane, and this big hunk of metal behind me is a 1950s International Metro. Now this is a fully custom vehicle, everything from headlights to taillights. I mean, custom Cadillac taillights, suicide doors, pop-out windshield, airbags, custom wheels, and that's what we're going to be trying to accent in this video. I built this wire form buck right here that you see. I want to really see these beautiful rims, so that's why it's got this really big wide opening. And today in this video we're going to start laying some sheet metal on this wire form buck, so I hope you guys stick around and let's just jump right into it. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to paper pattern a portion of this buck right here. So let me just get my pattern on here. I just want a rough pattern. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I just kind of want to be able to cut my sheet metal fairly accurately. I'll actually probably cut it just on that side of that rib there. Now that I have the basic shape, as you can see here, I'm going to go ahead and cut this out. All right, there's our basic shape for our pattern. So now that we've got our pattern, what we're gonna do is we're just gonna trace it onto this sheet metal. I like to go a little bit bigger than the pattern itself, just to give us a little more room for error. But it still gives us our general shape. So let's cut that out. Now let's take this buck off of the vehicle itself and let's put it on a mock-up frame. That way we could set this thing on the table and just keep checking our sheet metal as a reference. Now the reason I'm marking this pattern again is because I want to know a rough area of where I need to stretch and where I need to shrink. So this top edge right here is going to need to shrink right here, and this is going to need to stretch to come over because it's got this curve on the bottom. So it's still going to need to stretch in here and stretch in here, but this edge is going to shrink and this edge is going to stretch. So let's start doing that. I generally don't like to use these shrinker stretchers, but I think we're going to end up cutting all this off anyhow. So I'm going to use it just to get it in shape, and I need something that's going to not shrink too far into the panel, so I think these will work. Let's put it in the English wheel. A little more shrinking on the edge here. Let's check it on the form. Okay, it's looking pretty good. So what I'm looking at is I'm looking at the gaps between the buck and the sheet metal. So got a little gap here, but I think that's just form. We could probably fold that over. Most of this is actually looking pretty good so far. So I think it needs a little bit of form, maybe a little bit of shrinking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with this side. I'm going to get this side real good. I'm going to put some reference marks on it. And then we're going to start getting this side to fold over as well. Sitting on there pretty nice. It's kind of loose down at the bottom. I got this spring action going on. So I'm probably going to have to shrink in here a little more and get this to come over just a little bit. So let me shrink in there a little bit. This is what I really don't like about the shrinker stretchers, is it leaves all this marring and these little dimples we're gonna have to take out with the wheel. But sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. Okay, what's going on is I got this oil canning, so we're gonna have to start wheeling in here and probably start getting some shape in this in order to get this type of stuff out of here. So let's start wheeling a little bit more. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take this out of arrangement. To get it into the wheel. Get everything real smooth. Okay, so I put this panel back in arrangement. I push this edge down. Now I'm going to check it on the buck again. You can see that we're a little bit loose in here. We're pretty tight here, we're pretty tight here. All this is looking pretty good. We got a little gap right here, and I don't really like to pull it too much like this because it pulls on, this lifts up and this pulls on my buck. So what we'll probably have to do is shrink a little more along these edges. If I shrink in the center of this on this edge, it's going to bring these edges back this way. And we can start working on this inside edge. Now it's looking pretty close. So let me show you. So this is nice and tight. This one's nice and tight. This edge is looking pretty consistent in here, all the way down. We're obviously gapped right here because we got to work on this edge. But all these edges are getting pretty tight in here. That's what we want to see with this wire form. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to mark these ribs so I know exactly where to go, and I could put this panel in the same spot when we take it off. I want this thing to go back in this exact same spot every time I go to put it back on. So that looks pretty good. Put that right there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this panel off. We're going to go ahead and give this side a little bit of form. I'm going to start by stretching. Here's where it goes back on the wire form. I'm going to start stretching in this area right here to get this to curve back. And in order to get this to curve back the way that I want it to, we're going to have to really stretch this edge. And I might even trim this edge off just a little bit if I start noticing that I'm really having to stretch too much to get that to curve over. But for right now, let's just go ahead and put some hammer marks in that, and then let's see what we can get done. It's going to make that panel really stiff. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. Yeah, we're getting close already. So let's start wheeling it and stretching that edge. All right, let's fit it to the buck. See what we got. Looks like this is a little too curved there. To come out a little bit. All right, we're getting there. This at the point where I'm going to have to start stretching this center to get this to curve down more, and then I'm going to have to use a dolly to get that curve in there, because this, once I did that, it got real stiff. So let me stretch this out a little bit. This is a dolly I made specifically for this fender. Okay, we're getting pretty close. This edge needs to curve down just a little bit more. It's actually looking pretty good. We're right on the corner of this wire form buck. So we need to get it to curve down so we can get to this inner edge. It's touching all these right here, but we want it to touch all this all the way down to this very bottom flange. We might be able to do that just with a little bit of form, just by bending it over. Might need to stretch a little bit more in here actually, but let's just keep going on the wheel. I'll use the wheel to bend that over a little bit. And stretch this edge too as well. This whole part needs to come in a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use this dolly and I'm going to try to hammer this flange up just a little bit here. All right, so we got this front section looking pretty good. This panel is touching the buck on the back side everywhere. We got one clamp holding it on, and we got some edge finishing we got to do right here, but I'm going to skip that for now, and I'm going to pattern the center section. So what I learned with this first panel is that the bottom side is a lot harder to do than the top side. So I think what I'm going to do is attack the bottom side first, then the top shouldn't be a problem. So let's start with the bottom on this panel. So this panel is really going to have to stretch in this area down here to get it to come over. But I got to be real careful because I want to get the same contour on this panel that we put on this panel right here on the inside. So that's going to be the difficult part without putting too much curve on the outside of this panel. So let's just keep working it nice and slow, and let's get them to match up real well. I'm going to hit it with the dolly here and kind of knock this edge out or up a little bit. So that's looking pretty good. Check it out. Starting to look pretty good. The contour is pretty nice. It still needs a bunch of work inside here, but it's actually looking a lot better than what I thought. So let's go with the top, and then we'll refine all these edges before it's completely done, before we start welding anything. Let's do the top, and then we'll do this back section. Before I take this panel off, I'm going to mark the back side. Also, I got quite a bit of material up here. I'm going to kind of mark where the edge of this panel is, even though this would be short. If I cut it right there, I'm going to cut just a little bit of this, the top layer off. Like I say, we always want extra. We could trim later. You know, it's harder to put metal back on the panel than it is to cut it off. So. Do a little bit of stretching right on this edge here. Get this panel to curve over a little bit. Okay, that's looking pretty good there. Let's smooth this out on the English wheel. Check it on the buck. Okay, it's starting to look pretty good. This is out a little bit. That's just telling me it needs a shrink. Let's get this over where it needs to go. There. Yeah, we'll just bring that down. We'll just keep shrinking that, and it should fall down real nice. All right.
Put camera on the man that I am. Shoot a little dice, chase the cards in my hand. I know I'm on the road, let the family home, throw the Chevy in, I lost it all again. Well, it is what it is. Rocket's cool, running second in the race. Leave them all behind cause they can't keep the pace. I take him on the bed, running first again. Fine leaving you, and then my engine blew. Well, it is what it is. Be a millionaire, chase your life lottery. Don't keep the stuff that you're never gonna be. My number just came up, I'm dazed and I'm shook. The moment I'm a dream, I watched it in my jeans. Well, it is what it is. 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 Well, it is what it is.
Hey guys, I just realized that my microphone died halfway through this video, but if you like this stuff, stick around for the next video because I'm going to be doing the welding and the finish work along the edges, and I appreciate you guys for watching. Like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.